Hey, and welcome. I am Jeannie Park from Compass Rose Video, and I am talking with, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Kerstin O'Shields, and I am a body language strategist for business presentation.
Yes. Okay. And to be totally honest, Kirsten and I were just doing a kind of get to know you. Where are you located, Kirsten?
I'm in Maple Valley, Washington.
Okay, so you're in Washington, and I'm in Portland. So we decided to do this virtually, and we're having a little get to know you. But the conversation was going so well, and I thought it was so juicy and interesting that we decided to record it and then share it with all of you. So yeah, so let's kind of go back a couple steps, and I would love. So Kirsten is a body language strategist, and
Yeah.
everything you were just talking about was I was just eating it up. I was like writing all these notes down. So I would love it if you could go back and tell all the good people what you do and how you do it.
So, as a body language strategist, what I've done is I've taken my expertise as a professional opera singer and a professional teacher in singing and take all those aspects of what it is to build a character. And I started looking at how does that apply in real life? How do we interact with each other and how we show up? So with that, now what I do is we take the performance and presence part that I do in performance, and now I teach business people how to bring that to their presentation so that way they're engaging their audience and gaining more business naturally by just naturally attracting people to what they do.
I love that so much because, and we both have a background in performance. So Kirsten was an opera singer and I was a theater performer, and I did a lot of stuff on camera. I was like an on-camera narrator. And so, yeah, what we're doing with our body, it's like one of the first things, like my daughter just started acting in her high school in these school plays. And she said, "Mom, what do you do with your hands?"
Right. Oh, yeah, I always get that question.
Yeah, and I had to kind of dial back and remember what that was like, because what happens, and tell me if this is your process too, is you kind of start working from the inside out as a performer.
Absolutely.
And once you figure out what your motivation is and who this character is and just generally how they move, then the hands kind of take care of themselves. Now,
Yes.
sometimes you can have a specific, especially musicals or an opera, a specific hand gesture that's kind of given to you or you have to do for the character. Like Fosse, like Fosse hands, right?
Jazz hands, yes.
Jazz hands, yeah, exactly. But for the most part, you're just kind of like, now I'm talking with my hands and I'm not thinking about it. It's a natural extension.
Well, and that's something that we find attractive as humans. So a lot of how I come to this is looking at it from pack animal mentality. What do we respond to nonverbally? Because that's 80% of our conversations. And we find movement in the body attractive. That's why we pay billions of dollars every year to watch people run around on a field. And we wear the shirts and we scream at our TVs. That's how attractive we just intrinsically find that. So it is, you do want to move, you want to get those hands moving. It's important.
Yeah. So, okay. I can just imagine because we have a lot of like similar pain points, I think, and probably techniques in how we work with our clients. So this is so fascinating to me, but I would love to hear what are the pain points or like, what are the toss and turn problems in the middle of the night that your clients have that make them come to you and say, I need to work with you.
Well, a lot of people are they're totally unaware of how they're coming across. They see the reaction they're getting, but they are going, I don't understand why people think of me that way. And you get that, well, if people just got to know me,
yes,
type of thing, then they would understand I'm like this. Or the other question, why do people think of me that way? And I always tell anybody who asks me that question, I'm like, well, it's because they're working off every ounce of information you're giving them.
Right. And can you give me a couple examples of what are some of the things that they're being told? Like, oh, I didn't realize I was coming across as X.
Well, yeah. So some people say, I didn't realize I was coming off really offish or uninterested. And so we're saying, I was totally uninterested in everything that was happening, but sitting there with their arms crossed, right? The body's brought down. So now you've created a physical barrier between you and the other person. And the other thing when I teach is eyebrows. Your eyebrow lift shows interest. So when you have a slight eyebrow lift, you're showing interest out. And
do I look more interested now?
You do look more interested now.
What about people who've had a lot of Botox? What do they do?
Well, that's why I say don't get Botox. Or we do tiny bit, and only a little bit right here.
Don't overdo it. Yeah.
Don't overdo it.
I mean, we kind of joke, but it's a serious question because, I have a lot of friends who do a little bit here and there. And so it's important because you want to be able to communicate what you're thinking and feeling.
Right. And so it's really being aware about what are you communicating out? And I always say what you reflect out is what's reflected back to you. Mm-hmm. So do you know how you're showing up, and do you know what you're reflecting out? Right.
So do people come to you? Is it mainly like, I imagine it's people who are giving sales presentations and doing public speaking, or are they business people who are just being told in their HR reviews, their performance reviews, your team is saying that you're kind of standoffish, or do you realize that people think you're like angry all the time?
I have a variety of people that I work with, small business owners who really want to get their business going, who understand that engagement is really important in getting attention for their business. Authors, I work with a lot of authors, realtors, corporate, who really want to take things to the next level. And understand you have to be that it person the second you walk in the door. Oh my
goodness, those are all my clients too.
Yeah. So
I guess it makes sense. It's about like how you're showing up and getting your message out and making sure you're doing it in a way that's matching your brand and your business and not sabotaging everything else you're doing that's so great. Does that make you crazy? It makes me crazy. When I see people, everything is so on point and they've worked it all out and they're so great. And then there's this one thing, in my case, it's the videos and or live streaming that's totally sabotaging everything else.
Yes. What drives me crazy is when I'm talking with them and they're super excited and they're all going, and then the video starts and they,
I know.
Kerstin, everything shuts off and I'm like, whoa, where'd you go?
Right. Yeah. So talk a little bit about that, because I love that you said that you always use video in your coaching. So tell me about how you do that.
So it's so important, reflection. You have to see how you're showing up, because a lot of times what you physically feel may not be, as you know, from stage. You have to bring more for people to see it. So when I say raise your eyebrows, people go like this and they think they're raising their eyebrows.
And, I couldn't even see that you did that.
So it's really seeing what you're doing, understanding what your audience is seeing, and then you tailor it to really wrap it around your branding, create the culture you want for your business, so you're naturally drawing your target audience to you.
Right.
And they just show up.
And what do you do with the client who says, okay, now I'm doing all this stuff and I'm not crossing my arms and I'm not hunching, even though that's my natural introverted stance, just for an example.
Right.
And now I'm raising my eyebrows to show I'm interested. And now they don't feel like themselves because it's like not what they naturally do. So what do you tell them?
Well, I tell them you're actually showing yourself now. Now we get to see you. I don't ever get the response of I don't feel like myself. I've never had that.
Oh, really? Okay.
What I do get is, holy moly, do I feel vulnerable? I really feel like people are. That's actually the exact opposite. They feel like, whoa, everybody sees me now. And it can be a little overwhelming at first.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, because we remove the barriers.
When you're open, you are more vulnerable, but you're also, it's that thing when you open your hand, it's open to offer something, and it's also open to receive something. And that's kind of vulnerable in a way. Like a closed fist is much, if you think about it, it's kind of aggressive, and it's also not letting anything in, but it's opening that flow. Maybe the vulnerability piece is, well, what if nobody wants to receive what I have to give? Or what if nobody gives what I'm asking? And it's kind of that way with your body.
Or I work with a good deal of business women, and many of them feel like, well, I don't want to come across as, it's all about me.
Yeah.
And I say that it doesn't come across at all. What you're doing is you're showing up confident so people can see how you can help them. And now you're shining a light not only on yourself, but on them.
Okay. So say that whole thing again about when you're doing that, you're showing up, because I think that's really important.
It's so important. It is so important. People can't get help from you unless they see you're there.
Yeah.
It's so important to make yourself seen, be vulnerable with that, and allow them to see how you can help them. Because when you shine that light out, like I said, it shines the light on them and helps them get to the next level.
Yep, it's that Marianne Williamson quote. When you give yourself permission to shine, you're unconsciously giving other people permission to shine as well. I butchered that a little bit, but it's uncanny how many things we have in common, because I talk about that all the time. And I talk about how you have to let yourself be seen and we have to stop hiding. So it's so cool how well our two businesses really entwine and support one another.
Well, and I have people ask me all the time as a professional speaker, I do keynote speaking, and they say, wow, is it all about you up there? Do you feel that? And I say, no, I don't feel that at all. I am so about connecting with the audience, giving value to them, and making sure my tools are being shown onto them so they can walk out of the room elevated and being able to take themselves to the next level. So I don't even consider that the lights are on me.
Exactly.
It's shining the light out on them.
Yeah. And I do some speaking too. And I've done some coaching on public speaking as well. And that's when people say that they get very nervous and they ask, how do you get past your nerves? And it's the same thing I drew upon as an actor is once you take the focus off yourself, and once you kind of just push to the side what other people are thinking of you, because of course that thought's going to jump into your head. But I think of it as like pushing aside like an unruly toddler and just saying, wait over there, and then you'll get your juice and cookies.
That's right. Just wait a second.
Settle over there for a little while. I've got a little work to do. But when you put the focus on what you're doing, it's that actor joke. What's your objective? And I know that actor singers are also actors, you know?
Yes.
And as a speaker or, you know, in business, when you're putting the focus on how am I serving? What am I giving? Is everybody connecting? Then you're not so focused on, oh, I just forgot that, or I just flubbed that, or I forgot to do that thing that my coach told me to do.
Right. Well, and that's something I really try to make sure everybody hears is it's not about being perfect.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to be is perfect, because perfect is the lowest form of energy.
I like that. That's a new one for me. I'm gonna write that down.
Absolute lowest form of energy, because when something's perfect, the number one response is, don't touch it. It's perfect. Right. It is extremely stagnant. It doesn't have energy. So you never want to be perfect.
Right.
Ever.
I love that. Yeah. The other, another that makes me think of, there's a Japanese aesthetic called wabi-sabi. Have you heard of that?
Uh-uh.
Oh, you might enjoy this because it'll just support like what you've been already teaching. And it's that, so in this aesthetic of Japanese art, these artists will always intentionally have a mistake. So they're not seeking perfection. They're not looking to have it look perfect, because in real life, there is no perfect.
No.
And I think it's the idea that the ultimate truth is the most beautiful. So therefore, art should never strive for perfection.
Right.
You should always acknowledge to have the imperfect. And I just think that's amazing.
I love that. Yeah, I'm definitely going to look into that.
Yeah.
And it's not about perfection. It's about excellence. What's excellence you're bringing into the room, because then you're sharing that with everybody else.
Yeah.
And what I love about excellence is excellence can constantly change. What's excellent here and really serving this moment, you can still mess with and change and play around with and make it even more excellent in this moment here.
Yes.
So perfect doesn't change.
Yeah, exactly.
It constantly grows, it moves, it feeds. So that's what I'm always encouraging my clients to feel, is bring excellence to the moment and raise up other people with your excellence. Raise that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with the videos, you can imagine people get very, like you said, even in your coaching work, when you use video as a tool for that reflection. But anytime you just put a camera in front of somebody and say, okay, and now talk about who you are and what your why is. And you know, and maybe you got to sell a little something. People just, like most people, unless they have a background in broadcast or acting and performing, singing, tend to just shut down and kind of freeze. Yeah. So it's the same thing where I try to get them out of that mindset and get them into, you know, let's talk about your core value. Let's talk about your why. Let's think about the last time you worked with a client and she just said you're amazing, you changed her life. Let's start from that place.
Right.
And so I move them past that kind of frozen place into trying to be authentic as much as possible under the circumstances, and strive for excellence. And I talk a lot about authenticity and vulnerability, like you were saying, because that's actually what really connects people to you, is when they feel like there's a real person there.
Yeah.
A living, breathing human person, and not somebody who's like a perfect talking head.
Right.
And so I often intentionally will, in my videos, leave a little, I do that wabi sabi thing. I don't correct. If I have a flub, I don't necessarily go back and correct, do as many takes till it's perfect.
Right.
I want to show people it's okay to be human and make a little mistake, and,
be relatable.
Be relatable.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can strive for excellence and as much polish as you need, to match your business and your branding. But you should still always be relatable and be yourself.
Yes.
And be somebody that people are going to want to confide in. And say, this is actually, I want to come to you to help me with finances or with my messaging or whatever it is you do, life coaching, even like real estate, like you say, authors, because they can relate to you.
Well, right. And, when we spend money, we're spending it from the heart.
Yes.
We don't spend money unless we're heart connected.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll drive an extra 2 miles down the road to the store that carries our gum, right? Owned, okay, this is my gum, or this is my perfume. Right. To drive the extra couple miles to get it.
I can relate more to the perfume than the gum.
Right.
Like, oh, whatever. But perfume is a good example because it's so personal. You can't just wear any old perfume.
No.
You got to wear the one that feels right.
Right. And connects to your chemistry. So you'll drive that extra bit. You'll spend that extra money in gas to make it happen. So it's allowing yourself to, like you said, be vulnerable, be relatable. So people can make that heart connection with you and feel like they trust you. And that's a big, huge part of business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're in a good place to kind of wrap up. Is there anything that you are dying to ask me about the video biz or how I work with my clients?
So when you're working with your clients in video, just from your professional aspect, do you prefer to have them stand or sit? Because I get that question all the time. Should I be standing or should I be sitting?
Well, it really depends. Like, I think that as a general rule, if you're standing, you tend to be a little bit more, it's a little bit easier to kind of lean into something. Lean into the moment. And I don't mean physically like lean, but I mean energetically when you're standing. As opposed to when you're sitting, it's a little bit easier for your energy to sink.
Okay.
But I really think it depends. Some people, if they're, say they're a therapist, and that's how you would experience them. You expect to be sitting in a chair opposite them, and they're going to be sitting across from you. And it's just a very kind of, I'm here present with you in this moment, then I think that kind of makes sense. If it's somebody who, they could have, a balance issue or, just something as simple as that. Like, some clients just really do better when they're sitting because it's like one less thing they need to worry about. But I'll often, if there's an energy lag and I feel like they're not leaning into it, I'll often suggest, let's try the standing and see what that does. Okay. So what do you do?
Well, I try to really tailor it to whatever the business is.
Yeah.
So what's the purpose of your business? How are you working with your clients? Because that's how they need to see you.
Right.
And what I like to create with my clients is consistency. I say, yes, we're going to make you look great for an hour up on stage. But if you're looking one way on stage and then another way in a video, you're not creating consistency, and that's not going to build trust.
Ooh, that's so good. That's a very good point.
So it's really connecting to your brand. However, it's about also connecting to you. So again, it's always about how are you showing up?
Yes.
And how consistently are you showing up that way?
Yeah. And I think when people get to a certain level, I think that their brand, can supersede that. So somebody like a Marie Forleo, or obviously like an Oprah, Brene Brown, like, we don't care if they're sitting or standing. It's kind of cool to see them in different situations. But I understand, like, once you're trying to get to that level of just creating that initial platform, it
Yeah.
can be useful to have that consistency of posture.
Well, and it's giving people an idea of what it's going to feel like to work with you.
Yes.
Give them a little snapshot of what that interaction is going to be like. So if you have a store and you're constantly walking around, you're standing talking to people, then you should be standing in your store making a video. Or he said, if it's a therapist, then yeah, you should be sitting. So for me, it's about what serves the culture of your business.
Yes.
And then you have to bring energy to that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Make that happen.
Yeah, it's so much about energy. We could have a whole other interview about energy because it's so much of it comes from there. Well, I feel like this is kind of, as far as the video goes, a little on the long side. So maybe we can wrap up. But do you want to just tell people how they can get in touch with you?
Yes, you can go to my website, KerstinOShields.com. That's KerstinOShields.com. And you can go to my contact page and you can just click the link on there and it gives you all my contact information. And I would love to hear from you.
And how can people remember to pronounce your name as Kerstin and not Kerstin?
Yeah, so mine's the least common as Kerstin. And so I always tell people I Kerstin about you so you remember how to say my name correctly. And
I just love that. It's so smart. That's very smart. I love it. And my name is a little bit different too. It's pronounced Jeannie, but it's spelled Jean as in Nancy Y, which always trips up the people at Starbucks because they always want to do either Jeannie or Genie, like I do Jeannie or Jeannie to bottle. And you can contact me by going to my website at compassrosevideo.com. It's COM as in Mary, P as in Peter, ASS, rose like the flower video.com, compassrosevideo.com, and go to the contact page and you can actually schedule an appointment right there. So gosh, thank you so much. This has been delightful and super interesting. And we're going to take this offline and I have more questions for you.
Okay. Well, thank you. This has been absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, really fun. So thanks for being a trooper and just playing with me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.